Yo, what's going on, guys? We are on episode number 12 of Marvel Yap, and today we got another banger for you guys. We're going to be going over our OTA reactions to the cards that just got tweaked this past week, as well as going over the series drops, what cards we think are going to be dropping to Series 4, Series 3, what's going to stay in their current series. We're going to be talking about Anti-Venom, and we're going to give you guys a couple tips for Infinity Conquest, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we are joined with the hostess with the mostest, not my Dance. How are we doing today, Dance?
I'm doing solid. What is it? I've actually been enjoying Snap. It's been a little bit different. It's weird. I feel like I've been messing, especially with the newest card. Or newest, right? There feels like each OTA, there's kind of a new card. And this has been the one that I've been messing around with a lot. I've been having fun with it. I've been getting myself excited for next season, which we'll talk about next week. For a lot of those cards, I think, in general. But it's going to be a fun time. I've been excited and enjoying it. How about you? What you been doing lately?
I think it's been a pretty solid week. We're going to talk about the OTA in a second. There wasn't anything too, people would say, crazy, but there were some crazy changes. It's interesting to see kind of how the metas kind of shifted just a little bit, but at the same time kind of stayed the same. If that makes sense, like there was some minor adjustments, but it feels like Tier 0 didn't really change all too much.
Yeah. I agree with that.
It was fun. I had a fun weekend. You know, there's a lot of sports on. I mean, even just playing Snap, it feels like playing Snap felt good. Of course, we do have Pokemon Pocket coming out tomorrow, but that's a different topic.
That's an entirely different topic. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. No, Pokemon Pocket's been fun as well. I've gotten the majority of the cards. I don't know what else I'm gonna mess with in that game. I feel like I've gotten enough cards to do the stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm missing a few more here and there, but in general, I'm kind of just like, oh yeah, I just need to make sure I'm opening the things twice a day. But I have the worst time frame set for them.
Oh no.
And so it's like, it's right when I'm like in the morning, right as I'm starting everything up, and then right as I'm going to sleep, and I don't pay attention either of those two times. That's not typically the game I play around then. And so both times it's been like, yeah, no, I'm definitely like, I'm not opening up these, and I have this consistency like, oh yep, you have 2 to do. I'm like, yeah, I could be catching those up quicker. I don't know. Got me excited for Snap Packs at least, but whatever those are going to be, even we hear about in 50 years.
The next roadmap, we actually see that in the coming soon, you know, because it wasn't even on the most latest roadmap.
True.
So I don't know. But anywho, we did have an OTA this past Thursday. One of the highlights, I'd say, one of the great changes that we had was Typhoid Mary going, instead of inflicting all of the cards on your side of the board with -1, it's only a single lane, which I think really does make this card way more viable. And I think it makes sense also they made this change going into next week with Surtur coming out, so I think it's totally valid. And I was already playing some Typhoid Mary, even maybe without Luke Cage, kind of to dodge Shang-Chi or whatever, but this feels like a good change, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think in general, this was just a solid change. I feel like it was just one of those things that they do where, oh, hey, this card is all but dead. Let's just do some change and let's bring it back into the meta. Let's bring it and just give it a little bit of fresh life. And I think they did a great job with that here. And I think Typhoid Mary feels just a whole lot better in general. It feels, she feels like a lot of fun. I like this. I like this version. It's always felt kind of rough. I've wanted to mess with her in like the Scar package before, and you never feel like you truly can do enough, because then every single other card that you have to play becomes an 11 power card. But now it's a lot easier there. Yeah. I don't know. Overall, this I think is again, we talk about the best card of the OTA, the winner of the OTA. I think this is the winner of the OTA that we had here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is the winner. I think we do have some honorable mentions that you might also consider the winner. We're going to run through a couple of these a little bit quicker, because the final one we're truly going to like dissect and like kind of pick apart why it got changed. But I would say a couple, another good winner who's up there too is Shadow King. Shadow King got an extra point of power, which I didn't think Shadow King needed any more power. I think it was good for what he did, but it just, they thought otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know. It's this change, the logic for this change kind of felt like the best deck, and they said it in his notes, and this is the one I feel like where it was just the one that everyone was like, okay, Age of Venom's gonna get hit. Age of Venom's gonna get hit. Or we said for our hope, Age of Venom's gonna get hit. and he didn't get hit. And they said it, and the reasoning for it was hidden inside of the Shadow King notes rather than taking its own place. It says that the Agent Venom has spawned a lot of very strong decks, but none look so powerful that they require a nerf at the moment. But they've also been concerned by the low degree of counterplay, so they wanted Shadow King to go up a little bit. I don't know how I feel about it in the long run, but in general, I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen many worse changes, and this one I don't mind. The biggest thing, I think, if we're gonna talk about a loser for this, I know we've had a couple. There's gonna be a few cards we're gonna talk about it. Cerebro 2 was shot behind the back.
Yes, caught
behind
the
shed. They caught a stray, and then they caught 19 more. I feel like they were absolute. It wasn't a good deck.
No,
but it was destroyed. It was utterly destroyed. So it's, I don't know how I feel about that one, but in the end, this just being able to be like, hey, we want more people to be using this card in comparison. I feel like I've talked before about how the best card in Marvel Snap has typically been Shang-Chi, and it's the card we see the most used or whatever. But with this change, at least as of the latest patch, Shang-Chi's number 4 in the most used cards, and this has climbed up to number 3.
Really? What is 1 and 2 right now?
Well, number 1 is the card they said is not too powerful, Agent Venom.
But it's only boosted because of the weekend missions. That's the only reason why.
So, okay, yeah. So okay, I know you said you weren't going to take as long on some of these, but I will say, here's my logic with Agent Venom right now, and I'm wondering if it's this. Even though Agent Venom is a extremely popular card, when you talk about popularity, it is almost at 30% in Infinite play. That's a very crazy amount. That's a lot of people, but it has only a 51.8% win rate, not crazy amount of win rate. And so my logic is it just the season pass card being useful, being a good card, that we're seeing it getting used so much? And so when we're looking at, and then I feel like it comes into that as one aspect where it's like, maybe season pass card is inflating the rates a bit, right? And then the other part maybe is when we look at our best decks that we have the information off of Untapped, which again, where we're talking about the information from, the best decks are the competitive decks, and people who are competitive, people who make content for this game, they are using this to get their information.
Yes.
Are we seeing a difference here from the best quote-unquote players who are using a lot of the Agent Venom decks, and then everyone else who's just like, oh, this is a cool card, but also it's not the casual person who sits down and plays this just for a little bit every other day? Are they seeing this deck, Agent Venom, as well as just like, it's a good card, and that's it? Like, that's where I feel like we might be at inside of the game right now, where this card isn't actually, even if I want to believe it is, this card isn't actually busted. It's just a good card. And it's disproportionately being shown by people who are overusing it because of the stat tracker, as well as the fact that it is just popular because it's a season pass card. That's kind of my logic where I think the card must be, because they said it's not overpowerful. They said it's not too powerful.
Yeah.
And if we're going to say Second Dinner's lying to us, I'm not going to believe anything they ever say again. They're just rolling dice behind a shed and saying like, all right, that's Shadow King. Oh, looks like we rolled a 2 for you today. I guess you're going to get buffed. I don't know. Like, is that the logic here? If we say we don't believe them, it doesn't make sense. So I'm having to believe that there are a bunch of factors here that are saying Agent Venom isn't as good. He is a good card, but maybe not crazy good.
And I think that's a really good argument too. Like, you think about Kate Bishop and her play rate, people are like, we got to nerf the acid arrow because, it's so good and all this stuff. But I think it also, like you said, a lot of people are playing the card that might be boosting that. And I think the Shadow King argument I believe they were also making is people in higher Infinite are playing Shadow King, people in lower Infinite are not. And if you're not running a counter to the most popular deck, it definitely does make it difficult and seem like that's another reason why you're losing these matchups. I think an issue with the Shadow King as well is people were just running Cosmo. You can't do anything if you have the Shadow King with the Cosmo. So I understand some of the reasoning behind it. I think you did make a great point. People paid for the season pass. They're going to use the card they paid for. People are still playing Erishim because they paid or spent keys on Erishim. As much as we hate Erishim, or maybe some people don't hate Erishim, I do not like playing against Erishim, but I understand everyone was telling you to get Airshim. And if you're playing a lot against the tier 0 deck, you need something that can be that surprise factor to be able to beat them. And Airshim does allow you to have that surprise factor. It gives you different snap conditions. You also can get Loki, and Loki into that matchup can be pretty interesting as well. So, like, I understand the reason behind it. This Airshim topic for a different conversation. But that was one of the changes. We have a couple other changes. We're going to go ahead and jump over to Daredevil. Have you been messing with some Daredevil, actually?
I tried a bit. Yeah, Daredevil went to a 2-3 now instead of a 2-2. I tried. I don't know. The biggest thing that feels like is just that every single piece that used to really love Daredevil is kind of dead. Professor X, dead. Hobgoblin, right? I guess maybe it's still okay, but I don't think it's still great there. And then the Guardians, I think, Gamora especially, dead. Like, it's just, I just don't think Daredevil's you don't have as much of a reason to care about your opponent's plays as often as you do when you can just line the lanes with tech cards, with Cosmos, with Echoes, with Negasonic Teenage Warheads, right? Like, you can do some of that stuff very specifically if you're setting up for a singular lane. But in general, I just don't think that Daredevil's a card that is seeing as much play anyway. And I mean, it's gone up a bit, right? If we look at the actual stats, for what it's worth, he was only at like the past 30 days in general, it was just 1.3%, which is pretty low. He's now at 3.5. So people like messing with the new card, but the question is it actually gonna matter? I want to say no.
This next week, I think his play will go up even more with Supergiant being in spotlights, but it'll be interesting to see. Also, a change to a card we're gonna be talking about at the very end of the OTA talk has some synergy now with Daredevil. You, of course, gotta play into it when we do, because the way the curve works now. But I like that it got extra power, but of course I think it's interesting. It's cool, I guess, maybe just to see what happens with Supergiant. Maybe then we can talk about this again next week. We'll probably bring it up again, see how the meta kind of maybe shifted, because we'll be talking about OTA hopes for the following week and the new season and all that. And then we also have Meek. Meek got 1 point of power. We said, woohoo! Meek got 1 extra power. Scorn was already doing really well. It really just depends on what type of discard you really want to play. If you want to have a movement card for discard, I think this change was okay. I didn't think it was like, oh, now Meek is super playable now. But it's just a extra 1 power.
I think a lot of people also skipped Meek the week he came out.
Yep.
And so I just don't think he's going to be as played of a card in general.
No.
He had like literally the smallest percentage increase. Like, it's like 0.3 or something like that. I don't know. This is one of the situations we were talking about in the past. It's free point of power.
Yep. And we're going to be talking about this later on in today's podcast as well. So that's just a nice little foreshadowing there for you. So that was another change. We also have Electro going to 3-3.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was funny. So the logic they gave for this one was, we want you to at least enjoy having Electro on the board. I don't know if I've ever left. I don't think anyone's going to leave Electro on the board now that he's a 3-3. I don't think that changes anything for him.
You still blink him out, or you destroy him. Like, there's really just
It's it. You don't keep Electro around. Electro does not stay. I don't know. The logic doesn't work here. It does not.
Nope.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just another free point of power in my opinion. Yeah. I got nothing else to say on this guy. This was a big change.
Huge. Every single time Darkhawk is relevant in the meta, Rock Slide catches the freaking bullet for him. Every single time. And it's been like that since, Darkhawk was a 4-cost card when Darkhawk came out. This is kind of how Rock Slide started. I think Rock Slide started at a 4-5 or 4-4 or something when Zabu was
4-6 actually.
Oh, started at 4-6 when Zabu was really relevant. And then, they nuked Zabu, and they're like, well, we're going to change Rock Slide to a 3-cost. And then it was a 3-3. So, like, I understand disrupting everything. They don't want the Darkhawk curve to be the issue, but, like, this is also one of those Agent Venom cards, that was in the list that had the value there. I don't think this card is necessarily dead. It still works on curve, but that list definitely did take a big hit, and I've been seeing people just take out Rock Slide, which is kind of crazy. I've seen some people, they took out Rock Slide and they put in Black Widow. So I get it.
Is that like Black Widow Phoenix Force list that I've seen? Whatever. So they're using Black Widow Misery Phoenix Force.
Yes.
To just make it so your opponent doesn't draw any cards.
Yes, and it's Cassandra value still too because they're not drawing anything. So I get it. I understand the change. I'm not totally for the change, but I don't dislike this as much as some of, or probably two of the changes we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, this change, I don't know. I've never been a big Darkhawk guy anyway. So when I saw this change, I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a somewhat nerf, you can say, to the Darkhawk package and the Agent Venom Darkhawk package, because yes, you can't use that anymore. But in general, it was a situation where I was like, yeah, I don't like this card. I'm not gonna miss it. I know there are plenty of people who do, but personally, I was like, okay, I don't want this. And then I'm now getting Black Widow 3 turns in a row. So, you know, I don't know if I like the monkey's paw that much, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. And it is crazy how, like, Rock Slide gets nerfed, and then Black Widow surges, and Black Widow kind of is more toxic than Rock Slide because you still have the aspect you still can draw your cards with Rock Slide, where Black Widow literally can limit your combo, and if it does happen again, you're literally, it's a huge feels bad moment, but you know, I just.
Yeah, you can at least, like, live with the rocks in your hand. You can't live with the Widow's Bite in your hand. Like, when I realized I'm having that package happen, though, I will say I've just left it in my hand because I'm like, I know I'm about to get 2 more of these. And I had it happen. I got 2 more of those, played all 3 of them as, like, I played 2 and then I used, like, a discarding card to get rid of the last one because I'm like, I know for a fact my hand's going to get full.
Yep.
I'm chill with this. I've accepted. It's just kind of like that moment of acceptance where I'm like, all right, this is fair enough.
And that's what feels good with dark, like the discard though, honestly, because you're like, Blade targets this, so Blade's gonna hit it anyways. I get 2 power on my Morb, I don't care. Like,
honestly, like, no, like that and Moon Knight, like, loving those things. Even I saw people running more Silver Samurai because of that package, which is not anything I expected there. But yeah, it's been a lot of that.
And then we talked about this last week. We have Misery going to a 4/8 from a 4/7. You know, I think it's good for the card. I think this card is a pretty good card. I think it definitely has value in a bunch of different situations. In the Darkhawk shell we were just talking about, it works well if you want to do it with the Phoenix Force things. You know, it feels like a card that actually does have some utility usage, and I think 8 power, I'm cool with it.
I think so. I think the list that it was being used in was that Darkhawk package. But then that Darkhawk package got hit.
Yep.
And so it's being used less now, actually, post OTA than it was before. So I don't know if this, again, it's just going to be like, I don't know if this is going to be still a good card because of the fact that you are forcibly destroying your own cards here.
Yeah.
But overall, this is just one of those where it's like, yeah, this is a free change. Okay.
You're like, okay. I'm glad they told us about it beforehand too. If you guys wanted to open for Misery, so like that was good communication, like they did with Hydra Bob. But this had more time than Hydra Bob, so I liked that communication overall by Second Dinner. Shout out to
if y'all didn't. I did see enough people who were saying like, hey, I didn't know about this. If you are not a part of it, I know many people don't do a Discord. I don't know if they post stuff on Twitter, that type of Misery thing, but at least if you're not inside of their the Marvel Snap Discord. They're extremely, they talk about a lot of issues. They talk about everything, and they are extremely open, and they will answer questions like that or post news like this in advance. And so we knew about a month or about a week or so in advance, hey, this is going to be a Misery change coming up.
Yep.
Like a lot of that stuff are things that we can know about in advance by just being in there. So if you aren't a part of the Marvel Snap Discord, I would definitely recommend being in there. You get information just like this in advance, and it can really help you understand what you want to be buying and spending your tokens on.
And also, if you're not in the Marvel Snap Discord, I know both my Discord and Dance's Discord also takes news from the Marvel Snap Discord and posts notifications in ours very own, so you don't have to necessarily be in that one. You could also be in one of our Discords.
A little shameless self-probe.
And then, so now we're going to our final 2 OTA changes. So one of these, I'm less, like, not weirded out, but I'm like, I can see why, but I really didn't think it needed the change. So, like, Claw went from ongoing, the location to the right of Claw gets +8 power to +7 power. So they took 1 power away. Originally Claw was a 5/4 +6, so it went to 8, and then it went to 8, and now it's back to 7. So I guess they did hit the tier 0 deck, but it's like, I didn't see Claw really as the issue in that list.
Yeah, I don't think Claw was the issue in that list. I still think that the Agent Venom gives you much more value in that list in general. But I'm not. Again, it's kind of a situation where it's like maybe you're knocking a point off that deck. I don't know if it's enough for that deck to be hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still okay with the fact that that deck is taking at least a little bit of a hit here. And I do think that the new version of the Claw, it is a 12 power spread, and it is limited in the fact that it can only be to the rightmost lane. So say that as you will. But at the same time as well, this is still the Agent Venom Claw deck here is still one of the best decks inside of the game. It's the best version of the Agent Venom deck with this Claw, so it's not didn't change anything majorly here, but it is a change that's probably still good. So I don't know. It's kind of it's a okay change. I think the card is still fine. Still does what it does.
Yeah, it still does what it does. It just was like, okay. I mean, I guess we are hitting the decks, which like that's like instead of them like they didn't touch the the tier 0 deck at all. They didn't touch any. I mean, they did. They just maybe didn't afflict the deck the way we had hoped they would afflict it.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, and then there's the last card we have here, though. When people were talking about the changes to this deck, I heard a lot of War Machine stuff, and I didn't believe War Machine. I didn't believe War Machine was going to get hit. I personally thought that Legion was the best card in that deck, and I thought Legion was the answer there. I thought Legion was going to be it because Legion as just a 5/7. I mean, I told you, I said it before where I was like trying to do some more Airsham stuff. Legion felt insane in that deck because of being able to shut down locations and be able to have so much control and being good stats for his cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it being Storm instead is I don't know. This threw me off entirely. Storm going from a 3/2 to 4/5. How did you feel?
Yeah, I was not expecting a Storm change, and I think you've just honestly brought up a really good point. KM was talking about, the Storm Legion lockdown list, and like you can still do it in Airsham the same way you would have been able to do it on regular before Storm's nerf. So you could still play Storm on 3. You can play your War Machine on 4 or even earlier, and then you could play your Legion. So you can still Legion scam people. And I think I didn't like facing the deck because it just felt like, oh, I just play 3 cards and I win the game kind of thing. But I wasn't like, I think Storm's the issue. I think she needs to be adjusted. This Series 2 card is making me not want to play Marvel Snap. It's like the other 2 cards. It was the Legion. It was the War Machine. I mean, I get it. Like, maybe you can't make Legion a 6-cost card because it's just crazy for that overall, and it would only be more viable in Airsham opposed to just playing it on Curve regularly. But it just feels bad because like this card at a 3/2 I thought was great stats for what it does. No issues with it. It was just the other stuff in the package I didn't like.
Yeah, the package was because of the other cards there. Storms existed for I don't know how long. Like feels like freaking forever that she's existed at her previous stat line. I think basically since she was first introduced, she stayed at the exact same stat line. And so her going to this felt, I don't know, very, very out of the blue in comparison.
Yeah.
To say against it, it feels like a new card though now. It is, and I can see, and we've talked about this before, where location control is a very strong thing in Marvel Snap. And so it being a 4-cost on that point, I like the fact that we now have like a Cerebro 5 location control. I like the fact that we now have a 4-cost locational control because now we have 1 cost kind of with Nico, at 2 costs with Quake, Scarlet Witch, 3 cost you got Nocturne, Rhino, 4 cost you have Storm, 5 costs Legion, 6 cost I don't know Galactus, but it's at this point. You do have at least a good spread of locational control across every single cost, and that's cool. And I'm hoping that this card is going to be akin to just hoping to feel like a brand new one. I'm hoping that it takes a bit of time, and eventually comes around and be like, oh, Storm can be used like this now instead. It can be used in this way instead.
Yeah,
I'm hoping for that. I still don't. If it was that package, I liked the idea of the Legion being hit much more, but I'm just gonna hope and pray that there's something else coming, that this card is maybe still fine, and we're just gonna be upset by it, and in the end we're gonna be like, okay, maybe there actually is something else here. Maybe this has the answers we were looking for, because I don't know. There's still the best decks, unfortunately, with Storm, as you said earlier. They are now the Airishim decks. Those are the ones that are being used the most with her, and it makes sense, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it is those. And then you still have some of the other ones that are still trying to use her in a similar place. I think they're running more Zabu and other stuff nowadays.
Which I like
but,
that, actually. The Zabu change for it.
I still don't know if Zabu's good. I still don't know if Zabu's good. I feel like we've had him now for like 3-4 weeks. And I am still undecided if Zabu is good at this point. That's a side point. What do you feel about Zabu?
I love the Zabu change, and I think he actually is good. Like, it's kind of a situation. So, like, it's apples to oranges because it's not really the most comparable thing. But, like, think about it this way. You have... I'm going to compare Wiccan to Zabu, which I know they're not the same. But, like, a turn 1 Zabu and you having more of your fort cost in your deck feels like you have a 1 cost and you have Psylocke on turn 2 to be able to play Wiccan out on turn 3. Like, it feels like you're really able to open up the game a lot more and run some more of these cool 4-cost cards. I think it is cool. It's a hard, like, deck slot, and it's a hard tempo kind of turn to play. If you want to play a 4-cost, you want to make sure it's a good 4-cost. But having it, like, be able to be played on 3 is why Zabu was so good anyways. So I like the opportunity it does open up. Zabu's definitely not the exact same or remotely close to where he was ongoing, but he definitely does feel good to play now from where he was.
Yeah. No, it's because now, for what it's worth, if we're talking about I think the winner of this OTA, right? We're talking about Typhoid Mary.
Yes.
She's using Zabu in her best decks.
Yes.
Right? And I love that fact, and I'm hoping that that's going to mean that there's a lot more... I'm hoping that means Zabu's okay. I'm hoping that means that there's just a lot more options coming out in the future here. In general, this OTA is like... I'm hoping that this is better, because I think I told you when we first saw these changes. I mean, you saw them before me, but still, when I first saw these changes, I was like, I don't think I like it. I don't think I like this. I feel like this is kind of a nothing burger. Yeah, the Storm's crazy, but other than Typhoid Mary and Storm, I was kind of like, okay, this OTA kind of just didn't. It's 9 cards that got changed.
Yep.
And I feel like other than Storm, nothing got changed, honestly, still. Yeah, I'm saying maybe Typhoid Mary, but still, just, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that feels like very little got changed in actuality. When I know that's not true, and I'm feeling incorrect, I'm feeling the weirder thing there, but it's still the way I'm getting the vibes of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But also, with that in mind, we did actually have 10 cards get changed. We have a brand new card that comes out today. We have Anti-Venom that went from a 4/6. It's a 4/6 on screen right here, but if you don't go animated and you go more static, it goes to a 4/7. Anti-Venom is now a 4/7, got extra 1 point of power with the OTA, and it is the brand new card also coming out today, which sets the cost and power of your top card, so your deck's top card, to 0. So 0 power and 0 cost on the next card that you draw. How are we feeling about this post OTA? Because it does kind of streamline into maybe this is a better change. Maybe at a 6 power, it just wasn't feeling the right way for the testing.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm one of the people who honestly hasn't brewed with this card because I have no idea what to do with this card. The best place in my mind where this card fits, it feels similar to Iron Lad, and that's kind of all I have.
Okay.
And I think that's the closest thing, and maybe it's just like I'm thinking Iron Lad that you want to use Luke Cage with.
Okay.
And that's it. Like that's kind of that. I've gotten that far, and that's where my brain has stopped because I don't know. I don't see a lot of crazy ideas for this card. It also doesn't pull it out any quicker than everything else does. It just, I don't know. It just feels like a card that's probably gonna be good. I think this card's gonna be good. I just don't think it's gonna be insane. I don't know. What are you thinking about this guy?
So I think this card is going to be very interesting. I kind of put it on the same kind of tier as like Pixie sometimes. Pixie, of course, affects every single thing in your deck, so that's definitely a tier above this. But I do think I'm going to be using this in Pixie to kind of reach more into and enable me to have some 0 cost cards. I think This is interesting with, like you said, like with Luke Cage, with the new Shadow King 2, like a last turn Shadow King in the card that just had 0 power from the anti-venom. Maybe you could put this in a flex spot and destroy and get some destroy value, but still, I feel like destroy is still kind of tight right now, especially with like Agony and, you know, maybe just some of those cards. I think it's a potential Mr. Negative card or like an ongoing card, just in the sense like ongoing cards, you know, their power doesn't really matter because it's concurrent opposed to just when you slam it on the board or it has to get buffed all the time kind of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what this fits into. But like you said, I'm very intrigued to see what people build for this card, because I think the surprise factor you can get with an anti-venom feels like a surprise factor you can get with Pixie. I bet people are going to be running Mobius though this week to kind of counter the anti-venom stuff, some of the fun police. But I'm just excited just to see what happens with this card, and I think the 2 cards coming out with it in Spotlights, like Supergiant, people aren't playing a lot of, but it could be really relevant, especially right now with a bunch of Sarah Control, which is going to be coming back. The Slam that's happening, I think Supergiant could get some value there if you want to use it with the new Daredevil. And then, of course, if you don't have Ghost Spider, I think Ghost Spider is another just great card to have. Great in move, great in Phoenix Force, great in just even some crazy like move bounce kind of things. Of course, it is a Series 4 card, and Supergiant Series 5, this is Series 5, so it's not a 100% I would open necessarily week, because I feel like more if it's all Series 5, I'm like, go, 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 go. Even if the main card's bad, if you don't have the other ones, it's just a win-win because it's all Series 5s. But I'm interested just to see what happens. Does this do anything to the meta, or is this going to be another Symbiote Spider-Man kind of angle where it's like, oh, yeah, we're trying a new card for 2 days, but this card's not really that great?
Yeah. I'll say as well, I think I talked about it before, but I love the flavor with Mr. Negative, because this is Venom. This is the symbiote after it's been exposed to Mr. Negative. So it's literally, it feels very similar to Mr. Negative, and it's also a very cool card in general. I think it's going to be fun. Again, no idea whether or not it's good, but I definitely agree with you there. I don't think you go for this week. I personally, if you don't have the cards, I think next week we can talk about is going to be insane. It's got Copycat and Red Guardian, and we'll talk about Frigga more next week. Frigga might be fun. We'll have to see exactly how that goes, but yeah, this card in general, though, I am hoping for good times with it. I don't think you can do Mr. Negative with this card. I was hoping for it. I don't think you can do that. So what did you have any specific brews that you were thinking for this card in particular? Because I had at least one idea that I wanted to mess with, but
so I think this is going to be fun with Pixie shenanigans.
Just Pixie?
I think Pixie overall, I like this, honestly, with Patriot maybe. Just because your turn 4 normally is a little interesting with Patriot. You would play your Iron Lad. It may just be Iron Lad's the better in slot. But I think that would be solid. I think you do get a little bit of Howard the Duck value because you see what your top deck is playing into this. But I haven't built anything necessarily just yet. I know my friend Zodrex was messing with like a Darkhawk potential build. Because even if Darkhawk loses 3 power, if you play a 0-cost Darkhawk into like Mystique and some of this other stuff, that's just profit. But definitely some sort of ongoing like Iron Man, Mystique, Darkhawk kind of thing. Maybe even Tribunal is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was trying to think Tribunal stuff there, because you can also work the Luke Cage into the ongoing style list. Maybe even you can do some Spectrum stuff. I definitely think Howard the Duck. I think it gives you the. I think you want to do maybe Zabu, because I feel like using this Iron Lad and Jubilee kind of gives you a really good trifecta of 4-cost cards that care about the top card of your deck.
Yeah, that's a cool cool idea.
You can use, and then you've got all 3. Like, I feel like I've seen people use Iron Lad and Jubilee, and then they're like, oh, okay, we maybe just throw Howard in there just to make sure we can know what the top card is, make sure you're using it at the right time. And I think Howard, or I think Ancient Venom, or Anti-Venom, God, so many Venoms. Anti-Venom, I think, is going to be another way that combo can work together, and hopefully maybe even send that further. So I definitely think you can do a lot of good stuff there, because then there are so many cards that if you turn into a 0-cost, 0-power card, let's imagine you don't get Luke Cage. Imagine you don't get Shadow King. That's a crazy amount of value on a lot of cards. You've already said a free Darkhawk, insane.
Yep.
I mean, we've said it before. I think free Iron Man, that's fine. I'd love that.
Free Zola.
Free Zola, yeah, I'm down. Free Null, right? If we're going to talk about that destroy angle, that's a lot of fun stuff. just to humor with it, like imagine the value of getting your completely free version of your Onslaught.
Yeah.
And then final turn, you can throw that down with other stuff.
With a Mystique final turn, like you Mystique and Onslaught final turn.
You leave an Iron Man in a lane, and then and if you've got Tribunal down, imagine you can just boom, boom, and they just don't see it coming. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like I don't know. There's a lot of really fun cards here. And again, if you got Luke Cage, that's a free card you can just sit on. Your opponent does not. I'm assuming they don't know what you have. I don't think it shows that. Assuming your opponent doesn't know what you have, that's insane.
I mean, honestly, so like going Tribunal, even if you don't draw the Luke Cage, let's say, you can play Anti-Venom on 4, Iron Man on 5, Tribunal on 6, and then you just play Onslaught Mystique on 7 itself, just onto Anti-Venom on top of the Iron Man lane, and you still just profit just dramatically there.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm going to love it. And then, yeah, of course. So, and we're saying all this stuff. Next week's going to be the Mobius week. I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a blast. I don't know. In general, I think this is going to be a fun card. I'm hoping it's going to be good. Again, you get the 7 power, it's 4 cost, 7 power. Animation's showing it weird. There's also I like the variants. I think the variants I didn't like the Toxin ones as much. I think the variants for this week are a lot more fun.
Yeah, they're more fun. It is crazy how like it goes from big guy kind of to like little guy, but it's just the camera angle. It's also a rare variant, so any of you guys that are rare complete, you can open that one collector's cache, and you hopefully just one collector's cache, and get the Anti-Venom variant because you can just get it from caches.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about some Series 4, Series 5 cards, getting this week, skipping this week. Let's go ahead and break down some Series 4, Series 5 cards that we think might drop from either Series 4 to Series 3. There is a lot of Series 5 cards that we think might not get changed. It's going to be interesting. We're just predicting here. Of course, we'll get an announcement of what cards are changing. I believe either at least a week, hopefully more like a month in advance before the series drops in December. But we might be a little disappointed. That's just what I'm going to preface.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, what is it? I think it's going to be less than so it's December, so we're a little over a month in advance right now. But I definitely think that we have a lot of potential options here for what could be occurring. And I think a lot of them that we would like, that people are talking about, like, yes, I'd like to see this card. And I've heard this said online where it's like, oh, this is going to be the series, like this is going to be the one that all the cards are. I do not believe it. I think, and I've said this before on the app, I think the current way that Series 4, Series 5, and Series 3 just in general exist, I don't think that they can do a big series drop. I don't think that can be a thing. I do not believe that they will be doing a big series drop because, yes, I know people may want it, but that's not healthy for you to have this, and I've said it before, like a massive pile of Series 3 cards that everyone just gets all at once. You get thrown into them, and all of these other cards are in here. It's not a good system long term, and I'm hoping eventually it's going to get fixed. But I definitely think that this idea of big series drop occurring isn't going to be a thing. The biggest way I could see a series drop occurring is 1 or 2 cards. I'm going to say to Series 4 to Series 3, and we see. I would even be willing, and the best case scenario, in my opinion, would be 10 cards dropping at least to Series 4.
And I think I actually am totally here for that. I was thinking probably 12 cards getting adjusted overall. I think until we get packs, wondering what packs are, I think that's where everything's going to adjust. It's just, there is so many Series 5 cards. I think, like you said, before they drop stuff down, like more than like 12 cards overall, they have to add, or they're going to add another way to acquire them.
No, I agree. What is it? Because we have 1, 2, I'm counting how many actually we have in general, but I think if I'm not mistaken, we have, I want to say 60-ish, 70-ish Series 5 cards, and then only, what is it? It looks like not even 30 Series 4.
Yeah.
I can get that it's going to be a wanting for a lot. And I think the best thing they could do, and the thing, in my opinion, that they should do, is they should really push more cards into that pool for the Series 4 and have that pool get larger and let that pool get let that pool get to the size equivalent of, in my opinion, Series 5. if they're making changes, that's where it should be. I don't think I think as few cards drop into Series 3, and it's a hot take, as few cards drop into Series 3 will be the best thing for Marvel Snap, because if it's too many cards, I think it's already too diluted. I think put more and more in there, and it's just gonna suck.
It's like you can't even acquire. Like it takes till like collection of like 4,000 or 5,000 now to finish Series
6,000,
3,
I think,
or
yeah.
6,000 to finish Series 3. And like in that situation too, you're like, when am I actually gonna get Series 4, Series 5 cards? Like that's why I'm really thinking like, I would love for them to drop more Series 5 cards into Series 4, so then like token-wise, people can spend more tokens regularly.
Yeah.
But I think the change they're probably gonna make before they do anything truly dramatic is add another way to acquire cards.
No, I think that's a really good point. I think that's one of the better ways probably to see it. I think it's going to take a while before that stuff actually occurs, and if I don't know if that's the way it would happen, I think that's the best case scenario. I think letting those cards take their time and sit there, and again, I think like you said, give you value and make it so it's better for people to spend their tokens on maybe some of those cheaper cards, and give you more things that are cheaper to spend on, because I mean, Pool 4 doesn't feel like it even exists right now.
No, it does not.
Mostly.
I mean, we haven't gotten a brand new Pool 4 card in ages.
I'm gonna argue with you. Unfortunately, Agony did just release a Series 4.
I mean, Pool 4 in like instant release and spotlights.
Yeah, okay, spotlights in particular. Okay, fair. Yeah, that's. I think in general the cards. I don't know. There should be more stuff done there. But I mean, let's start with so we've said very few cards actually dropping from Series 4 downwards. If there were any, what do you think the Series 4 drops were? I only have, I think, 1 or 2 cards that I would even say maybe.
I would say Meek drops from Series 4 to Series 3.
Meek drops from Series 4 to Series 3. Is there any specific logic there, just in the usefulness of the card, or how does that work?
Just usefulness of the card. I think of like how long Howard was Series 4, Series 5, and I think like Meek isn't necessarily same level of Howard. I think you can get a little bit more value with Meek, but I just think of just like accessibility and stuff. I think they added the 1 power to Meek, so when Meek does drop in a later month, they're like, oh, we actually did get a good card to drop to Series 3.
Okay, no, that's a fair one.
Other than
I think Dakin could.
I think Dakin, yeah. I think I could see that at Series 3. I think that's totally fair.
I think Dakin's one that again kind of feels similar to Thor, and it could be just another tool for discard. I think you've got that, and then I don't know. The only other one, I could kind of see Meek there as well. I was going to say, I could see Silk drop, and that's it. Other than that, right?
I could see Silk. My hot take is Gladiator dropping from Series 4 to Series 3. Not 100% sold on that, but I could potentially see Gladiator being one of them too. You're
going to have to sell me on that one, I think.
So, like, I think that would be, like, Gladiator still has great play rate, and you're seeing him more in mill stuff. Like, that's probably the main one. You used to see him in Surfer, but I think, like you said, it's kind of like Dawkins, kind of a little bit more niche in the sense. Same with Meek, that they're like, okay, it's a niche card. We want people to be able to play some of these decks that maybe aren't as popular as other ones, because, you know, Baron Zemo is the Series 5 Season Pass card. They're keeping the same, which I think Baron Zemo drops Series 4. Sorry, that's another thing we'll talk about a little bit later. But I could see that being a card that drops down. I think, I don't know. That's just one of the things I was thinking about. Maybe even Lady Deathstrike, but those are me just throwing some just cards out there, seeing maybe if they do. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they just stay where they are.
Yeah, my logic behind any of the Series 4 and Series 5 cards that are dropping, I think, are, and I'm sorry to say it, but I'm believing it, because especially based off the previous few series drops that we've had, not incredibly good cards.
Yes.
And cards that I don't think are completely necessary for an archetype. Yeah, I think those two are the places where I'm existing personally. Yeah. In where I think the series cards are going to get dropped. So Dakin getting dropped, I don't think it doesn't disable that deck. Gladiator is interesting. I think Gladiator that's a hot take. I don't know if I'm willing to agree with you on that or not, but it could happen. Also, I don't think super complex cards honestly would get dropped. I don't think Havoc would get dropped.
No.
I think, even though he is not a good card, I don't think, especially when you're talking about just that pile of Series 3 cards that you give people right after, if I'm jumping out of Series 2 where I'm thinking that I'm getting good value from leaving Hulk in my deck, putting Havoc in the game for me, I do not believe makes sense.
No.
So I could see Gladiator. I could see Gladiator there.
Silk, I like. I like the Silk shout. That was actually good.
Yeah, Silk I like as well. I don't think we can see anything with Phoenix Force. I don't think. What is it? Meek, potentially. It could be over a little complex. But, like, I mean, also, a card that I don't think will get dropped, but I think is really bad is Celine.
Celine, I think goes to Series 4, but not Series 3.
She's in Series 4.
Oh, she is Series 4?
Yep.
Oh.
I don't think she gets dropped because I think when you're playing, again, talking about the earlier game experience, because, again, that's what, when you're bringing these cards into Series 3, you are buffing new players. You're giving them to newer players. Celine getting added to a new player's deck, doesn't make sense, I think. And I don't think they can do that. So I'm going to say I don't think Celine is going to get pushed down through there. I don't know. Do you have any other specifically Series 4 cards that you would be like, these definitely aren't dropping?
I think, I mean, I was going to say definitely could drop. Also, would be Snowguard.
Snowguard's interesting, yeah.
I think Snowguard could go to 3. I don't think Spider-Ham's dropping to Series 3.
No, I don't think Ham does either. I mean, we haven't mentioned it. Darkhawk and Null, I don't believe are dropping. I don't believe either one of those cards are dropping.
Nor Tribunal's not dropping either.
I don't think, I don't know. The only, I mean,
Zabu's
Man Thing, I don't think it's dropping. I could see where Ghost Spider drops.
Yes, Ghost Spider I could see dropping. I don't think Zabu does, though.
No, Zabu doesn't. I don't think Zabu does. So, I don't know. That's, if we're going to say the logic behind those, I feel like, at least in Series 4, there's a lot of cards I feel like aren't going to drop. I mean, we didn't say him. Mobius ain't dropping. I don't believe Mobius, Ravonna are dropping.
Not.
Yeah. But, what is it? Talking about the much larger pool now, and I think this is, if they do it, and I'm hoping, we see very few from Series 4, and we see a lot into Series, and a lot from Series 5 going into Series 4. What are you thinking in that pile?
I think Pixie and Fastos are on my list to drop to Series 4.
So I was thinking about that. So if the most recent card we had was Hercules got knocked down to Series 4 almost immediately after getting added, that was 5 months after.
Yeah.
When was this Eternal season? That's what I was trying to remember here.
Eternals with Gilgamesh was May. I think
that was May. If that was May, then yeah, that'd track. Yeah, if that was May, that definitely
May or June. But I think either of those are going to be 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah. If that is one of those two, I think that's completely fair there. I don't think I would mind that one in the slightest. I think, is it another one that honestly, I feel like we could see actually drop is where's her face?
Released in June.
Yeah, June. So that would be 6 months. I think the Eternal season is probably the cutoff for when I think a card could get added.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where. So yeah, I think Festus could be a fair place. I would call him Festus. I don't know if it's Festus or Fastos. I think it's Festus as in like Hephaestus from the Greek god, but I don't know if that's correct. That's what I say, and I like the logic there, and I've just stuck with it. So Festus, whatever. Yeah. I
do think Jean might drop potentially.
I was thinking Jean's a Series 4 card. I don't think she drops. I think I've talked about what you add to Series 3. I don't think you can add her to Series 3. I don't think that's a good thing for new players to be able to see.
Okay. Loki Series 4.
I want to argue with you. That could happen. That could definitely happen.
Because you're really only seeing him in like one deck right now. You're only seeing him in Erisham. Well, I mean, I guess you could make the argument, well, then Null should... Well, no, Null is just so good for Destroy. Like, why would you drop him? He sells. He sells these Spotlights. So does Darkhawk. It sells you, like, all this stuff. So I don't see that. Unless this new Loki variant that comes out, the whatchamacallit, Alligator Loki, which is supposed to come out next month. It's a promo card. Unless they make that a bundle or something. Maybe not, but...
Could be. It could be a web shop bundle is what I was thinking with that. Yeah. Because we have a lot of Asgardians next month, I think is the logic with that. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the Eternals, I was going to say Makari.
Yeah, I could see Makari.
Makari, I could easily see drop to Series 4. Again, I'm trying to think of the logic. Like, okay, does this card make sense if I'm as a new I'm trying to go with the logic of if it gets to pool 3 as a new player, does this make sense for me to get? And if it doesn't make sense and it feels more complex, then Series 4 is fine place. And I think Makari is a great one for that. So I think Vestas as well.
Yep.
I think there's actually a lot of the cards from that season could probably feel very like, honestly, Gilgamesh could be like, I don't think it would this time, but if in 2 series drops we see, I think Gilgamesh could be a contender.
I think in 2 series drops, yes.
I think 2 series drops, yeah. Speaking of, right, if we're gonna talk about season pass cards, if you're saying Loki, Elsa came out next month. Is Elsa a card that gets...
Elsa's series 5 still.
You think Elsa stays in Series 5?
No. I think Elsa goes to Series 4, but I'm like laughing at the fact that Elsa is still a Series 5 card.
Yeah.
Like, I think
I
this
agree.
goes down Hulkling Series 4.
So I was thinking about that. So the Gwenpool, that's the Kate Bishop season. That was August. If they pull Hulkling down to Series 4, that is the
Hercules
quickest
treatment.
drop we've ever had.
It's the Hercules
It's
treatment.
faster than Hercules.
Oh, it's faster than Hercules.
Hercules was 5 months. Hulkling, I think that'd be 4.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
September, October, November, December. Yeah, 4.
So
I
was thinking it. I wasn't saying it, but I mean, if that happened, right, that'd be something else. I don't know. Honestly, though, I feel like 2. What is it? 2. I'm gonna say 2 here. I think Werewolf by Night
to Series 4.
Okay. And is Hitmonkey Series 4 or Series 3 now? I don't remember.
Hitmonkey is Series 4.
Is he Series 4? Because I think it makes sense for both of those cards to be in that similar series because they both do similar things for those decks. So I think Werewolf by Night could make a lot of sense going down to a Series 4 here. And again, I'm aiming low with my expectations very purposefully because I'm trying to be like, okay, this card it's not breaking, but it could make sense. I think.
The thing
Honestly,
is that Werewolf is in spotlights in November, but it could be like the Stature treatment. Stature was just in spotlights, and then Stature got dropped.
Yeah. I kind of think it's that logic, honestly.
I like it.
What is it? If one that I'm going to say I don't think is going to get dropped personally, even though I feel like it could make sense. I personally don't think we're going to be seeing, what's her face? I don't think we're going to be seeing Valentina dropped. Hot take. Valentina was, what is it? That was April when she got added. I think she's an okay, if she got dropped, I'd be fine with it, but I don't think she will get dropped. I think it's just as simple as like, she just offers something different and it's not something that is replicated by really another card. The closest card, honestly, that does replicate that is Mirage, who is a Series 3 card now, actually. But I still don't believe that one's going to move downwards.
With the RNG stuff, I don't think, no. I mean, I wouldn't hate it if she was Series 3, or not Series 3, Series 4. Wouldn't hate it if she's Series 4. But I could see the argument for her staying Series 5. I can see the argument for U.S. Agent staying Series 5, even though Man-Thing is Series 4. But I think what U.S. Agent does is just so unique in a sense that I think at the 2 cost, he's like a vital 2 cost in some of these decks that I think he's good at. 5, wouldn't be surprised if he also went to 4. Of course, I think this is the season like pertaining to like thinking Eternal season. We're thinking cards going to drop. This is Thunderbolt season. We could see maybe some Thunderbolts cards potentially drop.
So what if Zemo drops?
I think Zemo should be a Series 4 card.
I think it would make... it feels akin to Tribunal, akin to Null, akin to Darkhawk as the enabler for the archetype. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think the deck is really that great, but I also don't think it needs... I think it's fine just being in a series. Again, I'm trying to talk about more of these cards being Series 4, having more options there. And I think Baron Zemo is a great one for it. And you have her on screen. I think Black Swan's another one.
Black Swan, I could see potentially if they want to put activate cards into Series 4. I
they
could
have it in
see
Series 3. I think it's fine.
I think I think it's possible. I'm not. I think of these on screen though. I think Beta Ray Bill for sure goes to Series 4.
If they could do that, what is it? Because then the November season is his season.
Yep.
He isn't in any spotlights. Data mined for that month. So we could be seeing that occur in terms of the setup. But again, they used Thatcher and then immediately nerfed her or brought her down in season. So I don't know. I wouldn't mind if Beta Ray Bill went down. In my opinion, I just think he needs buff. I stand by my ideas from buffing him that I talked about last week, but that's a completely different thing. One of the things that we aren't hitting here, we're not hitting any of the quote unquote big bads.
Yeah.
Now they've said very publicly, big bads are not a thing anymore. They've said big bads with the way spell caches work are no longer a thing. I still don't think any of the cards that were labeled a quote unquote big bad are going to get hit.
No, I think even though Kang isn't good, I think they're going to find a way to rework him in the future and keep him as a quote-unquote permanent Series 5. I would say Annihilus, in my opinion, is kind of a big bad for Series 5. I'd say Alioth is big bad for Series 5. Thanos, no, they're not going to touch Thanos. I mean, High Evo, not as well, because both those cards literally are an entirely separate archetype. So I feel like they want to kind of keep that way. Galactus, I don't see them hitting that either. It'll be interesting also because, you know, we have been talking just about like staple Series 4, Series 5 cards. But like I like how you brought up Gilgamesh. I like how you brought up Baron Zemo. I wonder, like you said with Dawkins too, how many old Season Pass cards are actually going to be brought down? Because I feel like those actually do take the longest to be brought down in series. So I think
technically there's the level of Series 5 card, and then there's technically the Season Pass thing, which if you're going to talk about series drops, technically every single month a card is added to Series 5.
Yes.
And it's not the card of that month, it's the card from the previous month, because that's when they will start showing up in Spotlight caches. So, but if you're going to talk about those, I actually think Shaw. I think Shaw is a card that could really be a solid one for Series 4. A great enabler for the Surfer deck that I think should probably be in most Surfer decks, and I think it should be bringing down brought down into Series 4 as well. I think that one would make a lot of sense there. I don't think it would break the game. I think it makes sense. It's not a great card still, but it is necessary for many Surfer decks. And I like the hand pump stuff. Even if it's not good, it's necessary for hand pump.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I think that's a solid shout. I think Shaw would be interesting. I don't think they touch Blink. I don't think they touch Kate Bishop. They don't touch Gwenpool.
I think they could touch Pixie, speaking of the Blink season.
Well, yeah, Pixie, I think Pixie goes to Series 4. I think that just makes sense.
I don't know. I feel like we hinted it. I don't think we said it. I think Pixie is a good Series 4 card.
Yeah.
And I don't think
it's affordable too.
She should. Yeah, I don't think she should change from that. And again, this is my logic of I think Series 4 should be bigger, Series 5 should be smaller. I don't want Series 3 bigger. And and I know if you disagree, guess what? Comment section, engagement. It helps us when you argue with us actually. So let us know in the comments if you disagree with our opinions on this, as well as just individual series drops here, because I think the logic here is going to make sense. And I hope it's something like this. If they aren't doing a big series change where they reorganize everything, until something like that occurs, I think the logic of making Series 4 larger so it actually is meaningful, and Series 3 and Series 5 even larger, even smaller, to balance those two and make those two feel even equivalent in sizes. To the massive pile of everything in Series 3 would feel a lot cleaner for the game, I think. So then people have a reason to chase toward the all the other new cards that come out and be like, okay, hey, this card's older, but I can still use it in some places. A card that I don't think is going to hit this one, by the way, but I do want it to. Scarlet Spider. It's up. We got that a little bit higher upwards in the list. Scarlet Spider should be a Series 4 card if they aren't going to be changing his cost, because it's been a few OTAs and they've just been ignoring him.
But the Zabu change, it just really opened up the door for Scarlet Spider to be.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, no, it's a feels bad.
Yeah. So the only other Series Pass card I feel like that we've actually dodged is Scar.
Yeah, I think they're going to look at how Scar performs this next month, or what they've done with testing with Surtur, I think, before they change him. I would not be surprised, though, if Scar and Kyera do go to Series 4.
Kyera's one that I could agree with. Scar, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it on one hand, but on the other hand, I'm like, that one's a weird one. I don't know how I feel about that in general. Yeah. Other good cards, I'm just gonna say that I don't think are dropping, that technically the time for them has technically passed. Sorry, hit my mic. Time for them has technically passed. I don't think we're going to be seeing Nico drop.
No.
If they drop Nico to Series 4, that would be and this is okay, maybe I know I've been saying a lot of hot takes. I think if they dropped Nico to Series 4, that would be the most we don't care about money decision they could have made.
Yeah.
Nico's just the best. I think Nico, and I've said it before, Nico's the best card in the game. And I think making it so she's Series 5, people have to spend more tokens on her, more resources. It is incredibly smart. And yeah, if that's what they're doing, it would be very smart, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think they keep her Series 5. I could see Nimrod, I think, still stays Series 4 because it's kind of not necessarily archetype defining. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Series 3, but I think he's going to stay Series 4. I think Nocturne stays Series 5.
Yep,
Nebula stays Series 4. Nomura, if he could be Series 4. Miss Marvel.
Is that the Blink season?
Nomura is, I think it's... when was Nomura? Nomura was in May, so this was...
So that was Blink.
Blink, yeah.
Okay. Nomura could be one that would be fun. That is, honestly, Nomura as a card, that could be a sleeper dropper. It's a weird phrase, but still.
Sleeper dropper.
Sleeper dropper. That could be one that would be fun to see. I think you could talk about Grandmaster getting dropped as well.
Yeah. After the change, I could see it.
Yeah. I think Grandmaster would be one that, again, I'm trying to talk about things that like aren't changing everything here, and I think Grandmaster is a very reasonable one for that logic. I think he can make a lot of sense there. I don't know if I have any other really massive ones here that I think are going to be like definitive. I think you could also talk about, I think, Speed. Speed is extremely droppable. It's a very much like a meh card, but I don't think that's this one. I think that's a card they could drop, but I just don't think that is a card they're going to drop with this series drops.
No, and I think because, like, we're talking about timeline-wise, it's just so soon from August to December. Unless, I mean, they do Hulkling, but I don't think they would do Hulkling Speed at the same time because it's kind of like Speed's actually, like, good.
Yeah. I will say, when he was released, he was one of the most Series 3 cards that they released. Because he's just not, again, when I'm talking about like the new player experience, he just makes sense. He's not a very complex card. He's a very easy card to understand. And I think he could be one that if and when they do drop him, it would be a very good drop.
Yeah.
One that I haven't said, and I know is your boy, Black Knight.
I think Black Knight is more complex, and I think like the archetype he opens up is like a brand new kind of archetype. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I am like probably 70% confident he stays Series 5 at least this time around until the next series drop.
I would be fine, I think, with him dropping personally, because I think, yes, he is a complex card, but I don't think that him staying up in Series 5 changes a lot. I think it puts the same barrier on it, whether or not it would be Series 5, Series 4, and just makes it slightly easier to get past it if it's Series 4. And I think, personally, I want to see that card dropped, I think. I'd like to see more people running Black Knight lists. I think that'd be cooler, and I think part of the reason that's holding that back is because it is a Series 5 card. But that's really the only other one that I'm going to be like, yeah, this card should definitely drop here. I don't think X-23, even though she's a lot older, is going to drop. I don't think, I don't think War Machine or Supergiant are going to drop, personally. Supergiant, maybe I could be proven wrong about, but I don't think either one of those are going to drop. In general, the only other one maybe is Miss Marvel? I don't know.
Is Miss Marvel still Series 5 or she's Series 4 now?
Yeah, she's Series 5.
Maybe she goes to Series 4, but I don't think she drops past Series 4 for a hot minute.
Yeah. Again, I'm trying to go with the logic of, again, if we're talking about when the season, or what, like, season pass cards were, Dawkins getting added to Series 4, Loki getting added to Series 4, because Phoenix Force, like, if we're talking about, like, when the cards were released, July 2023 is when Phoenix Force got released, and then Dawkins was next month. July is, Phoenix Force is Series 4, Dawkins isn't, and we have Dawkins, Loki, Miss Marvel, Elsa. Dawkins, Loki, Elsa, Miss Marvel. And so those 4, maybe Shaw as well, I could maybe see dropping to Series 4. I would love it if more of those cards went to Series 4 in general. But again, I'm not saying Series 3.
Yeah.
I think filling up that Series 4 with a bunch of unique cards like that, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that one.
I'd be here for it. But yeah, let us know down below what you guys do agree with for the Series 4, Series 5, Series 3 drops, and let us know as well what cards you would like to see. If you do have a reasoning behind it, let us know as well. If not, definitely still take a little peek at it. And then we're going to jump into our last segment we have for the pod. It's going to be probably more brief than what we've been going over. We're just going to be talking about Infinity Conquest because Infinity Conquest does start today at the time, a couple hours after this video does go live, or audio version. Shout out to all of you audio listeners on that Spotify and those Apple podcasts. We really appreciate you guys. If you guys are watching the video, we do have this content on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, and that'll also be down in the description below. But talking about Infinity Conquest, I myself don't play a lot of Conquest, even going into like later weeks into the season. So I'm curious in you, who actually got a Infinity Avatar at season reset of this season.
No, I didn't. That was last season, and I didn't have that happen. If you haven't heard this horror story, I played at Infinity Conquest, and I finished the whole thing. I won an Infinity Conquest. I was the first one to win for last season, but I finished it 15 minutes into the new season. And because of that, I was not awarded an avatar. And I've been told I was offered 50 gold instead. And that hurt.
Yikes.
And I still haven't got 50 gold, by the way.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Anyway, so I feel like it's going to be very difficult. One of the things I think, though, that is most important inside of your game is you want, I think, to be able to hide the information that you have as much as possible.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons why you can retreat against that. You can learn information. You can retreat. You need to be careful about when you're snapping. We talk about that more. But I really think, and it sucks, but I think Arisham's a great card inside Infinity Conquest.
I think because tier 0 for Conquest, 100%.
You hide so much information inside of the games that you're doing. I can play 3 games against an Arisham deck and see 4 of their cards.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you so much to hide. It gives you so much to work with. And it's really good. So an Arisham deck and I want to say, if you're running an Arisham deck, don't run the meta ones that you're seeing. I think some of the worst, and that's not even me being like annoyed at those decks. I just don't believe that the best Arisham decks, even though I know they have good stats, but especially inside of Conquest, I don't think the best Arisham decks should be using Quinjet. I don't think the best Arisham decks should be using stuff like Cable's interesting. Cable gives you the information from your opponent, but I don't think that's as great. I don't think Loki's a great card in there either. Again, like, you're taking the cards from them, but you're losing so much control over the value of your own cards. And I think you're going to be struggling a lot inside of those. So in general, I feel like Arisham, if you're doing it, you want to be using those. I'd recommend just trying to go for as many 3-cost cards you can, as many 5-cost cards. And then I think the best 3 6-cost cards you can throw in Arisham is just Blob, Mockingbird, and Eliath.
Yeah.
You use those 3 and then legitimately a good amount of tech cards for the rest of it, you're probably going to be fine.
Yeah, I think play what you're the most comfortable with. I think Arisham definitely, like Dan said, is incredible to use in Conquest because of the unknown factor. I have a little cheeky tip. I don't know. I was talking about this in a different Discord, and Brade brought up a great point. So, like, you guys don't have to do this, but if you have all of your cards with no borders on them and you're just using a default variant, like the base, let's say base Kitty Pryde, no border on it, and you make your whole deck just like that for the custom cards, your opponent has to click on every single card to make sure it's actually from your deck or see if it's from Arisham. So you have that other mental you have that other mental factor into
we're
it.
Another level right now.
Is it generated by Arisham, or is this actually a card that they're running? If you're playing on mobile, of course, you can't track it. Of course, Untapped, You can use the tracker if you're playing on PC, but they still have to like click on each card individually, and it's another just mental trick to go into some Conquest things. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that is just really sneaky. It also makes they have to take the time during their turn to click on that card. So just keeping that in mind, but definitely like in a lot of situations too, if you have a big card your opponent hasn't seen the entire game, you're snapping into revealing that card. Like I've talked about it before too. There's a bunch of situations where in Conquest it's like, okay, well I have Darkhawk in hand. They don't know I have Darkhawk in this list. I'm snapping because they're gonna pay either 2 cubes or they're paying for 4 cubes to see this card. So like making it transactional. Okay, I haven't played anything yet. They're snapping me on turn 3. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to take that one. They still don't necessarily know what I'm playing just yet. Yes, I lost 1 health, but I also found out what they're playing. Like using your matchup transactionally in a sense, like you're going to pay to see this card, or I'm not going to pay to stay in this game to see the rest of your combo just yet. Like being confident in that aspect and just like knowing your deck's ins and outs is really what's going to help. But you have to win 5 games in a row, and that still is like you do have to get lucky for that. Like you have to have the good RNG, you have to have the good matchups. So like people get frame after frame after frame after frame. Some people are just really lucky. Some people run into matchups where they have a huge collection level, advantage over the other person, which also means you maybe know the game a little bit more, so you can know your ins and outs a little bit better. Or sometimes you're the inverse. Someone's a way higher collection level than you, and they're just super aggressive with their snapping, so you have to be really aggressive with your retreating. It's just, I don't know. I'm thinking of it all transactionally, and like just being confident in what you have and what you don't have, like you're playing on ladder, but even more just like protective on what you want to show and what you want to hide.
Yeah. No, I think that's a different aspect entirely of it that's really important. Being able to know the information that your opponent has is incredibly important, because you want to be able to figure out, hey, do they have this Shang-Chi to destroy my combo? Is it Shadow King, or is it Rogue? Like, what do they have here that's going to mess with me? And like you said, what is it? Kind of the inverse of what you're saying. If your opponent isn't snapping, you don't have to show stuff. I've played games of Conquest before where I'm like, I've got a bad setup. I want to retreat, but I lose nothing and gain more by just sitting here and letting them play cards. The second they snap, I leave. And I reset that. But you can take that information. That's so valuable. But the information that you do get when you learn about their cards, I've done this before. Try to know what deck they are playing based off of the cards, based off of the way that they're playing. I've played against people where I see them drop a Nebula and I see them drop a Sunspot, and I say, okay, they're playing a War Machine Legion Storm deck. It's not as good anymore because Storm got nerfed, but still, it is still another deck that you can learn what they're playing against. And if I see Airship, I'm like, okay, I got to be ready for Alliance. I got to be ready for Blob. I got to be ready for those big cards. They've got a lot of tech cards. Legion's another card I'm definitely ready for. Trying to know exactly what cards your opponent is playing is really important. So that information is matters so much. So when you can, look at the cards that you've seen so far. If you've got the tracker, track it. Especially in Infinity Conquest. If you don't have the tracker, what I've done before is I will write down the cards that I am seeing my opponent play. And then I go to Untapped or something like that, and I type in those cards and I look to see, hey, what is this? What decks are being used here?
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like some people have been annoyed with me for, but I love it because I'm using the information. I have like, okay, I'm seeing someone use this setup. I don't know this deck. What is this? What do we got here? Oh, okay. This looks like was an alternate of the Age of Venom list that I've seen going around. Okay, I can try to keep that stuff in mind. And then it also gives me the knowledge of, oh, this list oftentimes runs Juggernaut. Oh, this list is running Cosmo. I got to be ready for double Cosmo potentially with the Mystique that they may have. Or it's just something as simple as like, oh, my opponent's just doing big numbers. They've got Hela here. How do I beat the Hela? What do I have to do in order to stop that? I think one of the biggest things that really hurts inside of Conquest, though, are the locations.
Yeah.
If you go into Conquest with no locational changers, I think you are at a distinct disadvantage. And I know that there aren't many great locational changers because locations are the best part about Marvel Snap. It's why the games feel fresh. And so location changers being good, like honestly, Legion I think is the best one. That is not good for the metagame oftentimes. So being able to use more locational changers gives you a control over the board that that their opponent oftentimes doesn't have. And that means that you can use those locations to your advantage. You can look at your locations and be like, oh, wait, all right, I'm running Legion and I've got Luke Cage in my deck because I don't know what the deck is you're building. And we've got a sewer system here. I can make it so every one of my opponent's cards, because I can see they're playing Agent Venom stuff, all their cards are going to have now going to be at 3 power. I'm going to cut their power down. And so little things just with being able to mess with locations, Nocturne, Legion, Scarlet Witch, Quake's another really great sleeper card. Probably Storm. I don't know. We'll have to see that. But cards like that are insanely valuable to be able to just say, hey, this is a location that I want to better for myself, or it's a location I don't want. So I'm going to change it to something that may be better for me, maybe worse for me, but I'm changing it up and you don't know what it's going to be. And you don't even know I'm going to change it. So that's, I think, an incredibly valuable part of Infinity Conquest and just all of Conquest.
And that's the difference between Ladder and Conquest itself, is having that location control, because you're locked in a game for normally more than just one round, opposed to just the quick matches you have on Ladder. Having those extra just game literally flipping cards in order to steal games from people is just way more important. And that's like the different mental aspect, I think, when it comes from Ladder to Conquest, which does make the game feel different, because I want to play quick game, I'm going to play Ladder. Kind of want to grind it out. I kind of want to play the same deck. I want to learn the ins and outs. I'm going to play Conquest for it. But we wish you the best of luck with all of your climbing, if you're playing Ladder and not playing Conquest, and all of your Conquest games this next week. Maybe you're using Agent Venom, or not Agent Venom, Anti-Venom, but I think more often than not, play the stuff you know. Play this. Don't play necessarily the new card in Infinity Conquest. Play the stuff you've been having the most success with this season, because people are going to be trying the new card and trying new things when it comes to Infinity Conquest. I think we talked about this last time we talked about it. Make the most of that and beat them with what you already know is good.
Yeah.
But do you have any final things you want to say for the Yap?
No, I think tech cards are good there, so just use some more tech cards. But otherwise, I think that's it.
Yep.
Other than the fact that y'all, if you're not subbed to youtube.com/@Tucker, y'all should be. You're watching this, or at least seeing us here with that. Or if you're just listening onto Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we appreciate you there as well. If you want to drop a sub over there as well, we won't complain. And we appreciate anyone who's just listening in general. Thank you so much. And like I said, follow Tucker here on YouTube or Twitter and Twitch. He does a lot of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
And yeah, if you guys are following here, or honestly before you guys follow here, you guys need to be following Not My Dance on Twitch, Twitter, the YouTubes. Any other plugs you have for any additional platforms at the moment or coming up?
I don't have any other platforms that I know about that I really want to be. I didn't jump on the blue sky train like I saw some other people do. I didn't either. I don't know. I think I have an account. I just don't care enough about it to promote it. It's just kind of like, I just wanted the Not My Dance name and I called it there. I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Hey,
that was it.
It's worth it. But any of you guys, we really do appreciate you guys hanging out with us. This is episode number 12, which is awesome that we've gone through, double digits now, which is incredible. Thank you guys so much once again for watching, and definitely feel free to comment down below what series drops you guys would look forward to, or if you like ours, or maybe what you're running in Infinity Conquest. But until the next time, God bless and laters.